Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. So today I wanted to record this message for you around what Kundalini is really asking of you to help her with so that she can actually move from the base of your spine to, the seventh chakra for divine union. Now, if you've seen the other videos I've created on this, great. If not, I would really highly recommend that you go watch that prior to this one. But essentially, my hope for this message is once you are done with this message, you have a very clear understanding of what Kundalini really needs for you to assist her with so that she can flow upward instead of being or causing resistance on her journey upward. Now, with that being said, I want to preface this message by saying that I love to do short messages. I'd like to kind of get to the point, let you know everything you need to know, but I do think this one's going to be a little bit longer. So hang tight, but I do want you to really pay attention till the end because there's going to be some great information in here for you to really understand where you are on the journey and really how to get through it. Now, I really want you to think about your Kundalini awakening journey as being broken down into two key parts. The first one is clearing of blockages, which you don't really have to do much. Kundalini is actually doing the work for you, but there are physical signs and symptoms that show up that allow you to really see how you can support that journey. And the second one is integration through embodiment, which is really crucial for you to understand and really work through, because this is where, unless you do, you understand what's required here and you actually embody that practically in your day-to-day living, Kundalini cannot move and flow upward. Now, essentially, for clearing of blockages, Kundalini will do the heavy lifting here for you. Her role is to literally move up through your spine, through the chakras, and clear the blockages, anything that is in her way, obstructing her way. And so what will follow here, though, for you is the physical symptoms that you actually need to process and work through. Now, it is highly, highly recommended that you utilize breath work here, which is great because essentially what you're doing is you're taking your life force energy and helping her to unblock the chakras, your energy centers, so that she can easily and safely rise up your spine while keeping you grounded. Now, essentially, the breathing exercise that you want to turn to that really helps support your Kundalini journey. While there are many, if you decide to find a Kundalini teacher, you can do that as well. But the single breathing exercise that can really, really help you is called Anulom Vilom, alternate nostril breathing, essentially, is what it is. I've used a video here for your understanding, but you can easily use this on YouTube and you'll find plenty of teachers that help you and guide you through this exercise. This practice is going to help you balance your vital energy channels, and it helps to harmonize your left and right hemispheres of the brain. This is super important because what you're essentially doing as, Kundalini is trying to rise up is you're trying to bring in your masculine and your feminine into balance, right? And for that, we need both sides of the brain, the left and right hemispheres of the brain, to really come into union with each other. That's how you reach that state of wholeness. And so what you are seeing Kundalini do as she clears the blockages is once balance these two energies so that you can reach that state of wholeness, but also it's going to help purify the body. So what this ends up looking like for you is a lot of physical symptoms coming to the surface, but that is just the purging that is taking place that your body needs to experience, right? In order to release the trauma, the toxins, whatever that looks like, the physical ailments, the diseases from your lineage, essentially. If you are, if you have a lot of that, you will see all of that come to the surface. So it's naturally curing physical, mental, emotional ailments to essentially purify your body. Now, if you're anything like me, I have shared in a past video that while I was looking so forward to be able to do this breathing exercise for me personally, I had a physical ailment challenge that prevented me from doing this sort of breath work. And every time I would be like, God, like, really? Am I the only one that can't utilize this breathing exercise to my advantage? But like I said to you, none of our challenges, each one of our journeys is unique, and there's always a purpose hidden behind it. It has been made very clear to me from the beginning, and I've shared this in the past, is that my challenges are unique because I'm meant to overcome them and then help others along the way as well. The same goes for you. If there's a unique challenge that you are struggling with, just understand that that might be unique to you. There is never a challenge that you can overcome. You're meant to alchemize whatever it is you're going through, and then it may be useful to you in some way on your journey, possibly to help others, or however you're going to utilize that. But nothing is impossible here. Just have to work around it and figure it out. In my case, it was a dietary change that needed to be fixed so that that could have a positive impact on my health, my breathing, and then I could finally resort to, breath work. But for most individuals, you can get to breath work right away, and that is really, really going to help you move Kundalini upward more easily. So with that being said, oh, by the way, I do want to mention that in case your situation is kind of like mine, in that dietary video that I made recently, I did pin a comment for that video, just letting you know some of the alternate remedies, also available easily on YouTube, that I turned to and were very successful for me. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that and this is your situation, definitely go and check out that video and check out that comment that I left for your assistance. Now, the second aspect of your Kundalini awakening has to do with integration and embodiment. What does this really mean? Well, I'm actually going to break this down into 3 different components of how this is really, working out for you in your awakening journey, and what you kind of need to be cautious of, what to look out for, and things you can do to help yourself to move through it. Now, what is integration through embodiment? The way that you want to really understand this is that, in the first component of your awakening, Kundalini is trying to really move through the chakras and bring everything to the surface. But the best way that I can explain this is that you are not yet ready to hold the vibration that she is trying to bring you into. So we have integration that takes place, which is trying to normalize you from experiencing those new higher states of consciousness, so that you can actually anchor in that frequency and really be able to naturally stay there. It's a new shift. Just think of it as literally changing a house, moving from one house to another. It takes you a while to get settled in so that you can really call it home. Well, with each chakra that she is trying to break through, it's a higher form of energy that you are trying to experience. And so with that, it takes a while to get settled in there because it's a new shift, it's a new change. So essentially, think of embodiment as allowing your spiritual truth to become your everyday reality so that you can really sustain that level of frequency, really stay there and really be able to live from it. That requires shift from the old into the new. Now, with that, the very first thing that you need to take care of is nervous system regulation. The best way that you can kind of understand this is imagine, if you installed almost industrial power into a small cottage. If you do that, the system would basically feel like it was overloaded. Nothing is wrong with the actual electricity in itself, but it would simply be that the wiring can't handle the intensity of the actual voltage. That is kind of what you're going through. And therefore, in order for you to feel comfortable with this new level of, electricity running through you, you need to basically regulate your nervous system. Kundalini essentially dramatically increases the amount of energy that is working through your body. And so if the nervous system isn't regulated on a regular basis as she's trying to do this, it is going to struggle to process all this heightened energy that is coming your way. So if you want to comfortably shift into those higher states of consciousness, it's going to require you to regulate your nervous system. In case you're new to this and you're wondering, well, then how do I ground myself? How do I, what are the practices that I can use to really get through this? Well, meditation being one. You absolutely have to do meditation. I stress that in every one of my videos. Breath work, right? The alternate nostril breathing is your first and primary one that you can focus on. There are definitely others. Walking out in nature barefoot on the grass is great. Being on the sand is also great. Going to natural bodies of water, if you're able to, that is also fabulous. If you don't have access to that, depending on where you are in the world, you can even just regularly have baths. If you have access to a bathtub and put some Epsom salt in there, that's really great for you as well as you're working through this process. Also, now that I've already mentioned it, I made a video on it, nutrition, watching what you eat to help really support the rising of Kundalini is really going to be beneficial. And for others of you, it's not going to be a choice, but something that you absolutely have to do if you're facing the kind of challenges that I faced regarding, your digestion. And really just remember that a regulated nervous system is what's going to create the stable container for you to hold that higher state of consciousness and awareness. Now, the second component of integration through embodiment has to do with releasing your trauma. Think of this as you carrying, a whole lot of weight and load while you're trying to climb a mountain. Eventually, you will become exhausted. Not because climbing the mountain is impossible, but because of the weight that you're carrying, it's too much for you to handle. And so your trauma is basically storing enormous amounts of survival energy inside your body. And until that energy can be safely and easily released, Kundalini actually slows down your journey. Because that survival sort of instincts, those patterning, those unconscious behaviors that are part of you need to go, right? If you need to understand this a little bit better, please go and watch my video, Shifting from Doing to Being. That will help explain this a little bit better for you. But essentially, Kundalini needs to slow down until all that trauma in your body is released, not as a form of punishment, but it's actually for your protection. The intelligence of Kundalini won't force higher frequencies into a system, your body, your energetic system, if you're already overwhelmed. So as you find ways to release the trauma, let's say this is crying, frustration, anger, however this comes out for you, depending on, your personal circumstances, this is all going to be different. You will not be able to, alchemize what you are experiencing or what you experienced in the past, because that needs to shift. All of that needs to shift into a place of presence. That energy needs to shift into creativity and intuition. So we're alchemizing on this journey. And again, if you haven't seen one of my videos that I created on this, on alchemy, please go watch that as well. But that is the name of the game here. You are taking all of that trauma and alchemizing it into something beautiful, right? You want to be able to use all of that energy in a much more new, found, and beautiful way, right? So becoming more creative, becoming more intuitive, and of course, being present. Now, last but not least, the third component of integration through embodiment has to do with living your truth. How do you actually take, the clearing of these blockages so that once your energy centers are operating the way that they're actually meant to from their original state, what is that going to look like for you in your day-to-day life? And until you reach that place, Kundalini will not move forward. I'll give you an example here. Let's say your blockage is cleared from the root chakra. This chakra has to do with stability, grounding, and really taking care of your basic survival needs, such as security, shelter, and safety. Let's say you've grown up, in your life not feeling that sense of security. Now, when Kundalini moves through this chakra and that blockage is trying to clear itself, what it's asking you to do is integrate all of that trauma that you've experienced, really come face to face with it, and then shift into living from a place where you now feel grounded, you feel a sense of security. Now, I'm just going to toss out an example just to explain this a little bit better, but this is obviously going to vary for each individual based on their own personal experiences. Let's say you had a parent or maybe both parents and you, let's say, lost them at a very young age, or you came from a home where things were very broken between the dynamics of your parents, and you constantly never knew what was going to take or happen next. So as a child, you felt very scared, very worried for, your family's safety and stability, let's say. Now, when this chakra is trying to clear itself, you may be challenged with facing all of this. Of course, you'll have the physical symptoms, what that ailment might look like for you. And if not, it might just be really facing that past, the darkness of that past, and then moving to a place to really heal from it and to say, now I am a provider for myself. I do make the kind of money that I need. Remember, this can't come from a place of survival. So not hustling 9 to 5, not being happy with what you're doing. That's why a lot of people shift their careers, moving from their 9 to 5 into a more wholehearted place. So that is something that may shift for you. Again, this is going to look different for everybody. Not everybody has to leave their job. I've created content around all of this, but it's going to vary for each person's individual. But for the sake of an example here, what this might look like for you is now really coming face to face with releasing that past and just coming to term with your new sense of safety and security that you've created for yourself. Once you have reached that place of gratitude, alchemy, moving and shifting from that old trauma, you are now ready to move to that next level and move out of, that lower state of consciousness into those higher chakras. So that is what your embodiment essentially will look like here. I do want to share a tip here that is very useful and helpful to you if you're struggling to understand, what a particular blockage is for you. And this has to actually do with your dreams. I highly recommend that you keep a dream journal during your Kundalini awakening journey. And the reason why I say that is because it is widely known that Kundalini tries to bring to the surface to you so that you can help support her awakening by giving you very vivid dreams of what she's really working through. And as most of us know, we have dreams all the time, but sometimes we don't quite remember. But if you have a dream journal, by your bedside, if you ever wake up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and you've experienced something, it helps to write that down so you can really retain that dream in the morning and go back to your journal. Understanding the clues that Kundalini gives you along the way are really helpful for you to understand what she's asking you to integrate and embody. Now, with that being said, I will also say that journaling right before you go to bed with any questions you may have is helpful, because then your subconscious mind is actually working on that problem before you go to bed, and possibly a dream may come through to help support that. So just a recommendation if you'd like to follow it, if you're really struggling with, I don't know why Kundalini is not, moving up, understand that just because you don't see what's being worked through doesn't mean it's not working. So, or she's not progressing. Everybody in their own time will get there. But essentially, if you are struggling with understanding a particular, chakra or where you currently are on your journey, these two can really help you. So just remember, Kundalini doesn't need us to force its ascension. It's just asking us to help her prepare the vessel. Think of Kundalini like water flowing through a river. The water already wants to naturally move towards the ocean, but it doesn't need to be forced. It simply needs a clear channel. So your job is not to push Kundalini upwards. It's to remove anything that's preventing her from moving naturally inward and upward. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope this was helpful. God bless.